What's going on, everyone? My name is Jeremy Platt, and again, I am joined by my good friend Niall Ty. It is week 5 of the NFL season, and we're here to preview all the games. But first, I want to start off with a little recap of Thursday Night Football. Now, how did you think the Bears looked in their let's just say their e not easy but confident win against the Commanders?
Yeah, I mean, I thought they looked better than expected. You and I touched on it briefly on Tuesday. We both kind of thought the Bears would at least cover the game and potentially win, but I didn't think it would look that easy. I mean, 27-3 at halftime. Uh, DJ Moore had like 230 of Justin Fields, like 280 total yards. Like he was absolutely
Yeah,
incredible. I don't think there was a wide receiver on the Bears that caught a pass other than DJ Moore. I think it was just Cole Kmet and DJ Moore. So DJ Moore did most of the receiving for the Bears last night, but Justin Fields has quietly looked really good the last 2 games. I know they only won one of them, but one game at a time, take it step by step. But Justin Fields looked good. Confusing loss by the Commanders. One thing I will say, and I will absolutely make note of whenever it happens in the future, teams coming off an overtime game on a short week are 3-21 against the spread, now 3-22 after last night's game. So the Commanders played against the Eagles on Sunday, went into overtime, and then they obviously played last night, Thursday night. So short week, overtime, tough for teams to get it turned around that quickly, according to the numbers.
yeah, and it makes sense just because, I mean, fatigue is a real thing, and I don't know. Thursday night games seem, if I'm a player, it's just
Don't like them.
it would seem so overwhelming. Just like so much
Mm-hmm.
intake of information, and it's just yeah, but yeah, so that I mean that I think that's like an example of where like stats, I don't know if you call that analytics, but stats like support like your reasoning. So but yeah, I think there are very few players in football that can like completely take over a game, and I wouldn't have guessed DJ Moore to be one of them, but that's exactly what he did. Um, I mean, you see it like in the NBA all the time, but that's mostly just because there's 5 guys on the floor. But like you get hot, you get hot, and I think like that was the equivalent of a receiver being hot, and uh,
Yeah.
it allowed. I mean, it really was the offense for the Bears. I also thought Khalil Herbert looked good before he went down. Um,
Yeah, that injury was scary. I was surprised he even got back on the field. Obviously, he went right back out, but like initial look, I was like, oh boy, that looks something potentially season ending. I don't want to,
yeah,
guess or anything, but it didn't look good. But hopefully he's all right because he was having a good game. And then they were down both their running backs. So I think their fullback was like playing running
yeah,
back for the remainder of the game because Roshan Johnson suffered a
that's
concussion
unfortunate.
earlier in the game. Also, you're talking about DJ Moore and like one, I think the NFL needs to send out an apology on the what would have been his third
Oh
touchdown when he
yeah,
catches the ball on the sideline, runs past the defender.
they didn't even
They
show the
didn't
replay,
show
which is
they didn't
weird.
show replay at the game, and they didn't show replay on TV. So they clearly fucked up, and then we're just like brush it under the rug and
Yeah,
didn't bring it up. So like, I don't know if you're gonna hold players and teams accountable. Like Tyreek Hill gets fined for not wearing socks. Like the NFL should at least be accountable for making a bad call. I've never understood that because if you're a ref, like, why not let the play out? And if it's a scoring play or a
100%.
turnover, it gets automatically reviewed. So there's no,
Yeah,
whatever. But
100%. Or it can be challenged too,
exactly.
but that can't be challenged because it's bone dead. But yeah, Bears. I mean, no pun intended, but Bears look commanding. That's what. But yeah, I feel pretty good about that game. DJ Moore's a stud. But I think we should move on to Jags at Bills if you're up for it.
Yes, sir. Let's do it.
All right, Jags are going to Buffalo, minus 5.5 points. The
Oh, it's
Bills.
in London. It's in London.
Oh, it's in London. Okay. Bills. Ooh, voice crack. Bills are favored by 5.5.
Yeah.
And it seems like this is kind of a Jags home game, despite it being
Yeah.
technically at Buffalo. What are your thoughts on the game?
Yeah. I know. I hand up. Not going to claim like I watched the full London game for those of are aware. It's 6:30 a.m. on Pacific time, and I woke up for what I thought was going to be the second half of the game, and then I had it up, and then next thing I know, I was asleep, and I woke back up at 10 o'clock. But so I tried to watch most of the game, but this Jags team confuses me a little bit. I feel like their offense should be a little bit better than they are, but then they show flashes, but it's not all quite there. Like Trevor Lawrence, I think is developing into a stud, but some weeks it's a little iffy. Obviously, they were able to take care of the Falcons last week, but I'm a little bit interested to see how the Jags look this week, being in London for a full extra week. I think that does play a role into it. Like I saw a report that the Bills are flying out, and I think the plan is for them to fly out. I believe it was either Wednesday or Thursday. I can't remember. And then they fly, obviously the time change. And then the goal is to stay out the full next day and then fall asleep, like I believe it would be Friday night. So tonight to try and cancel out jet lag. And as someone who's tried that trick before, it doesn't work. It takes some time for your body to adjust. Like your clock, your internal clock, it doesn't just reset because you stayed up a full night. So I think the Jags have the advantage there. But I like the Bills in this one. I think they're one of the hottest teams in the league. They killed it against the Dolphins last week. And I'm going to ride the hot hand. I'm going to ride Josh Allen. Their offense is clicking. The only thing I'm slightly concerned about when taking the Bills is obviously Trey White went down. Their cornerback is out for the year, and the Jags do have their fair share of weapons on offense. So I'm actually excited for this game. I think I'm going to try and get up to watch it, and
I thought you were gonna say,
we'll see.
I thought you were saying you try to go see it in person.
Oh no. I'm not flying along.
Not that excited. But yeah, it's interesting. I was reading about, or I was actually listening to Joe Mazzulla, the Celtics coach, talk about momentum, and he was talking about like the only way to stop, or like the best way to flip momentum is by throwing a curveball, and I think right now the Bills have all the momentum. They're looking really hot. I think they scored 30 plus in each of the past 3 games, and that curveball could be it, like just how big of a difference it is playing in London, the time changes, like not having family there at the game. I mean, all that. So I think if the Jags were to pull it off, like that would be their curveball. But I'm still, like you said, I think you used the word riding with the hot hand. I'm gonna ride with the hot hand. The Bills are looking kind of how we expected them to look going into the season. And yeah, I'm rocking with the Bills.
Sweet. We are both on the Bills in the London game. One thing to note, this game is actually played at a different stadium in London. I'm gonna blank on which city it's in. Oh, so this is at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. And apparently the over, I know the Lunder is a big thing, like the London under, but apparently in this stadium, it actually favors the over. So the lover is in play in this game. If anyone's thinking about that.
I think that's I love it. I think that's the difference between like correlation versus causation might happen.
Yeah, that also is not a real stat. I mean, it is a real stat, but there is no rhyme or reason behind it. So ignore me. But next game, a game I'm actually pretty excited for. It's Texans at Falcons. Atlanta are currently 1.5 point favorites. They are at home. And I'm going to come out and say it. I'm not really sure why the Falcons are favored. I saw that line and was a little bit confused. I think looking at how these two teams are trending, it would have been maybe the opposite, like Texans favored by a point and a half, 2 points. So I think kind of know where I'm leaning in this game. But yeah, I mean, we've talked about it the last probably 2-3 weeks now, but CJ Stroud, another great game. He continues. We talked about it on the recap pod. He continues to be great. Seems like he really, really loves being a Houston Texan and everything that comes with that. And he's kind of carried the burdens of being a franchise quarterback only 4 games into his career. So I love everything that he's doing. And then on the opposite side of the ball, Bijan's so exciting to watch. Like I watched a couple clips from last week's game, but he's incredible. But it seems like everything else on their offense is really, really struggling right now. So It could be a favorable matchup for the Falcons offense. I don't think the Texans have the best run defense, but it boils down to which quarterback I want to take, and I think I'm going to ride with CJ Stroud and the Texans. I like what they're doing so far, so riding the hot hand once again.
Yeah, and I'm with you once again. One thing that I really like about CJ Stroud right now is usually when rookie quarterbacks come in, the game feels so fast. It's in the NFL, it's a lot more condensed rather than the wide splits in college. So there's a lot more clutter and it's a lot harder to figure out. But it seems like CJ Stroud's seeing the field super well, and he's not getting overwhelmed by that speed. And I don't know if it's the offense he's in, because the offense is known for like getting the ball to their playmakers in space. But I'm super impressed by the way he's seeing the field, and he's not second guessing himself. He's just like he's firing once he sees the guy open, he's also able to anticipate when the guy's not open yet, which is going back to what we're talking about a few days ago, which is like throwing the guy open and whatnot. So, and I like looking at this matchup, I don't think the Falcons defense is going to be one that necessarily overwhelms him. Like,
Yeah.
So I really like the Texans offense in this one. And then offensively for the Falcons, it seems like there's a lot of meat on that bone. I saw that the Falcons have targeted their tight ends more than any other team in the NFL. And Kyle Pitts still only has 11 catches for 120 yards on the season.
Yeah, I mean, Jonnu Smith, I think, outgained him last week by like 80 yards. I think Jonnu Smith had like 85 or 95 yards, whatever it was last season.
Yeah, he had 95 yards.
Yeah, so
confusing
stuff from Arthur Smith, but
yeah, it is really confusing. But it's like, all right, you got a team that is, it seems like everything's clicking and they're riding this wave. And then the other team where it's like there's more question marks than answers right now. And so I'm going to ride the team that has the answers, which is the Texans and CJ Stroud.
Yep. That is also my lock of the week. I love the Texans this week.
Yeah. Yeah.
And probably underdog of the week as well.
I'll ride with you also on that underdog of the week.
Great.
So yeah.
Between the Tackles podcast is big on the Texans. I love it.
Yeah. The Dolphins, that's the Texans.
Yep. All right. Next game we've got Panthers at Lions. Lions are 9.5-point favorites. Two teams moving in opposite directions right now. The Lions seem to be getting hot and continue to grow as the season goes on, and the Panthers, I think rightfully so, are struggling a little bit. There's a report that they're looking for a wide receiver one, which is extra funny after the game that DJ Moore had last night. They had a wide receiver one, but they traded him. So, this one's actually interesting to me though, because I know that the Lions are pretty big favorites in this one. They're at home, but I don't know. 9.5 points seems like a lot, and also I believe Amon-Ra is going to be out this game.
Doubtful right now.
So he hasn't practiced the last few days, and obviously we never really know until game time starts. But it seems like he won't be playing. So I am personally excited for Jameson Williams. Yep. I'm not sure how involved he's going to be, but if there's ever a time for him to get going, it's when Amon-Ra is out. So he could be I think it'll be him. Laporta, Reynolds has been a stud for them all season, but like, I don't know. I think he has a chance to do something against, a not so great Panthers defense and a pretty banged up Panthers defense. So I'm excited to see him. It's his first real NFL action. So I'm not sure who I'm going to take in this one yet. I'd like to hear your thoughts on the game first.
Yeah. And I mean, you touched on it. I was going to talk about Jameson Williams. And even if he's not a guy that plays, every rep or whatever, I still can see him like coming in for 10 plays and like having like one deep shot. I think from an NFL fan perspective, like that's just fun to see because you know why he's in the game and it's not to block.
Right.
He's going deep. There's going to be shots. And I mean, not only does that help that Lions offense by having that a guy, I mean, I think Khalif Raymond was already a solid like deep receiver, but having a guy that can stretch the field vertically opens up everything else underneath. And Sam Laporta's already been super productive all season long, or so far this year. I think it's gonna only like create bigger windows and gaps for him to like be a threat in that intermediate passing game in the middle of in the middle of the field. So I think Sam Laporta is gonna be my player of the week this week.
I like it.
Yeah, I mean obviously DJ Moore is gonna be the player of the week, but we're not taking him into account.
Player of the weekend.
Yes, exactly. So I think the Lions are gonna have their way right now, offensively for the Panthers. We're kind of talking about we were talking about it with the Texans, but it's kind of the opposite for Bryce Young, where he does seem overwhelmed, and it's also because, I mean, he doesn't really have the weapons to like get the ball to in space right now. But yeah, I think the Lions are just overall like a lot better of a team. So I'm gonna take Detroit. I know it's a big line, but I'm gonna go with Detroit.
Yeah, I'm having a tough time trying to pick this one, but I think I'm going to zag when I'm not zigging. 9.5 points seems like a lot, and all the words and actions taken by the Panthers front office indicate that they really do think Bryce Young is the guy. Like it seems like they're trying to get him a wide receiver because they believe in him as a quarterback and as a person. So I think that I think the Lions are going to win this game, but I like the Panthers plus the points.
Yeah,
Um,
and sorry,
yeah,
quickly,
go ahead.
uh, it's like I playing quarterback is really hard in the league, and so I'm like a very firm believer in Bryce Young. I actually think he's gonna be the best quarterback of the class, but it's it's not a thing that happens overnight. It's just he's getting the experience now, and yeah, it's kind of like muddy water right now. But I mean, you look at a guy like Jared Goff who's become kind of a star in his role. So it's just it's a tough start, but I think he'll be able to pull it together. But yeah, sweet. Let's go to the next game. Titans 2.5 point favorites going to Indianapolis, and I'm gonna come out right now and say that I like the Colts. An upset. I'm a big. I'm loving this Anthony Richardson hype train right now. Uh, and yeah, I kind of believe in him. What about you?
Yeah, I'm actually going to go the other way. I do believe in Anthony Richardson, and I think he's shown flashes. He's certainly a positive player on the field, but I still think he has a long way to go until he's solidified as like a guy. Like I think he's an awesome
Yeah.
fantasy quarterback. Like he has those traits to be great there. But his completion percentage is alarming. I think it's like 14 percentage points below expected, which is one of the worst in the league. But he does have these plays, like the play where Aaron Donald was rushing up the middle and Anthony Richardson, they ran four verts on the play, so there were four guys going deep. He didn't really have a dump off option, so he like jumped midair as Aaron
That's
Donald was
awesome.
tackling him, throws 0 feet on the ground, like 45 yards, hits the guy basically in stride. I mean, the arm talent and everything is very very evident. Um, but I'm just gonna this is more of a Mike Vrabel play, and I talk about this quite a bit, but I like Mike Vrabel a lot, and I think this run defense is incredible, so it'll make the Colts a little
Yeah.
bit more predictable on offense. So I'm going to take the Titans minus 2.5
Yeah, and I
in
think
this game.
well, one of my favorite things with rookie quarterbacks is there's always like a defining game where, or like Patrick Mahomes, even though he really only started one game, like everyone remembers that Denver game is like the game where all right, we saw what Patrick Mahomes can be, and I think this is the game where Anthony Richardson starts putting stuff together, and it's like, oh, I'm not just a fantasy quarterback, but I'm a fucking baller too, like, and I could even see him like putting the team on his shoulders to like win them this game, like that type of attitude, and I love it.
All right. I'll take us to the next one. We've got Giants at Dolphins. Um, two teams looking to get a win, kind of turn the narrative around for different reasons. But
Yeah.
Dolphins looking to bounce back after the Bills, and then the Giants are really looking to find any sort of momentum on the season. Their offense has been very stagnant without Saquon Barkley. Daniel Jones already has more interceptions than he had all of last season. The defense has certainly taken a step back, and you saw some frustration from Dable with Daniel Jones on the sideline after the pick six. All around not great start to the season for the Giants, and I sad to say I don't think it's going to get any better after this game versus the Dolphins. So Jeremy, your thoughts, Giants Dolphins?
I mean, you know which way I'm gonna lean, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, I think this Dolphins. I thought the Bill. I mean, this is another thing, another reference to what we were talking about earlier this week. But like, I don't necessarily think that was like. I think it was more of the last game was more of a testament to the Bills rather than like
Yeah,
going up against Dolphins.
but the
And then we talked
Dolphins are
about it.
certainly looking to bounce back. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like
So
they took that a little personal.
and yeah, and it just seems like I think Mike McDaniel's the type of guy who, like, kind of like puff out his chest and say like this is what who we are like, and I think he's gonna go for a statement win. Um, and I guess how big of a statement is it? Because it's against the Giants team that's 1-3, but like I think he's gonna like silence anyone who's hating, which I don't think too many of people are. But you know how the media talks. I heard what Kyle Brandt said, uh, saying like, "Oh, the Dolphins aren't the next big thing," but like I think the Dolphins are legit. And yeah, I'm gonna take the Dolphins as like a statement win, Mike McDaniel.
Got it. Yeah, I think I'm gonna go the other way on this one. I don't really have a ton of rhyme or reason why they would keep it close, other than the fact that they really need to get it turned around. So they're also 0-4 against the spread. So at some point they need to cover.
Yeah,
But yeah, I'm with you. I think the Dolphins win, but 12.5 points is a really large line. So I'm going to take the Giants plus the points, but expect the Dolphins to get it done at home.
sweet. Next game we got Saints at Patriots. Uh, New England is 1 point favorite in Foxborough. Now I see you shaking your head. How are you feeling?
Yeah, I mean, when we were talking about the Texans and Falcons, I was a little bit confused why the Falcons were 1.5 point favorites, and I'm really confused why the Patriots are 1 point favorites. They opened up at 1.5 point favorites. Yeah, Christian Gonzalez out for the season, Judon out for the season. They did trade for J.C. Jackson this week, which I actually don't hate. I mean, it's such a classic Bill Belichick move.
Classic.
Have a guy that like blossoms in your system. He goes elsewhere, gets a big paycheck, and then ends up coming back to the Patriots for 10 cents on the dollar. So we saw some.
Speaking of that, Jamie Collins retired today.
Right. I was just
Yeah.
about to say, like, we saw with Jamie Collins, like we've seen it plenty of times before. So I wouldn't be surprised if JC Jackson has like 2 interceptions and looks like his old self. But I think these are, two teams that are really struggling. The Pats are 1-3, Saints are 2-2. But the Saints offense was able to do next to nothing last week against the Bucks, and Alvin Kamara and Derek Carr both said something in the post game conference, like, something has to happen. I'm not a believer in Dennis Allen by any means, but I also just like I truly can't put my faith in this Patriots team. Like I just don't see it with Mac. And then our defense was the strong point, but at this point, I do think they're getting Jonathan Jones, the veteran cornerback, back
Yeah.
this week, which is a huge help because if he wasn't back, they'd be missing their top 4 cornerbacks. So obviously that helps a bit. Man, I'm going to go with the home team and the better coach. So I think I'm going to pick the Patriots here, but I wouldn't be surprised if this is a really, really ugly game, like 13-10 kind
Yeah.
of score.
Yeah. You kind of you kind of give me an alley-oop right there. I'm gonna slam it down. But I think this is gonna be a really low scoring game. Right now the over under is at 39, which is already low, and I think I would honestly if I could bet, I would take the under for sure. Um, but I like the Saints in this one, and
Don't
I think
blame you.
it's gonna be a thing where like they almost force feed Alvin Kamara. Just like they need to get him the ball. He had 11 carries for 51 yards last week.
Alvin Kamara's, sorry to cut you off really quick, but
Yeah,
did you see his stat line last week? I think he had 11 carries for 50 yards, but then 13 receptions for, I believe it was 33 yards. So
yeah,
like he had
that's
an
not good.
insane amount of touches for like very, very little
Hey,
yards.
PPR, gotta love it.
Yeah, exactly. I had him on one of my fantasy teams and he had like 14 points, I think, but like did pretty much nothing.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I think they're just gonna like. I mean, he's a guy that he like. I talked about it with the Bears, but like, and DJ Moore, but like, he is a guy that can take over a game. And in a game where I don't anticipate it being high flying, like airing the ball out, like I think he's gonna be a
Not at
guy
all.
that gets a ton of touches, um, and gets a real gritty win. And I'm actually gonna take the Saints as my lock of the week also.
Right in my face. Come on. All right. Going from one ugly game to potentially another ugly game. We've got the Ravens at the Steelers, a divisional rivalry where the games always tend to be pretty ugly. We talked about how the over under in the Pats game is 39. This one's sitting at 38. So not a lot of faith in the Steelers offense, I guess. But um I don't know. It's so hard to figure out who's going to win these games. I feel like all
Yeah,
analysis and predictions
goes out the
goes out the window with these two teams. It's always a very, very ugly game. But I was actually a little bit excited to see Mitch Trubisky play. I know, crazy sentence that just came out of my mouth, but I was excited to see Mitch Trubisky play and see how he would handle the Steelers offense and whatnot with Kenny Pickett out for a week, but it does look like Kenny Pickett's going to be playing in this game. So, I think I'm going to go with the Steelers and just take them plus the 4.5 points in a game that's over unders 38. I think it's going to be a really close, ugly game. So I'll take the points where I can grab them, but I don't know. This feels like an upset in the making, but at the same time, the Ravens could just kill them. I can't really tell you.
yeah. Yeah, and I know as much as you love Mitch Trubisky, I love Lamar Jackson, and it's like
I don't love Mitch Trubisky.
no, he's your
Let's
no.
be
You were telling me
clear.
earlier that he's your favorite quarterback in the NFL. But and the Steelers have like I saw a stat on Twitter where it's like the Steelers have given up uh, a top 5 receiver performance in every week so far this season, and now I'm looking at Zay Flowers and kind of licking my chops like pause, but I think Zay Flowers is gonna have a day. It feels like we've been waiting for that breakout, and he's shown good signs, and but I think this is
He
the
hasn't had the game yet. Like you
yeah
talked about it with
uh,
Anthony Richardson.
yeah totally. And like right now, I'm like just kind of like I'm kind of hyping up a bunch of rookies right now with between Stroud, Richardson, Laporta, but I'm gonna keep it going. I like Zay Flowers this week. I like the Ravens this week. I think their offense is just so much better than the Steelers' offense, and even though it hasn't necessarily shown recently, um, I think the Ravens are. I think the Ravens are a much better team and are going to cover this 4.5 point spread.
One sec before we move on, but did you see like Roquan Smith's comment? He said it like last year. It's like, oh, like how does it feel to be a Raven? And he's like, I'm not a Raven yet. And they're like, what? And he's like, you're not a Raven until you beat the Steelers.
Yeah,
So Roquan Smith is looking to become a Raven this week.
yeah.
First time that he'll have the opportunity to beat the
It
Steelers.
seems like a classic like AFC North game in the making.
Yeah. All right. Next game is Bengals at Cardinals. And yeah, I know we're looking
Same
at the
week?
line right now, so we know what this spread is. But like, if you would take yourself back to week 0, you're hyped for the NFL season to start. You're looking at each game week in, week out, and someone said, Jeremy, what do you think the spread for Bengals Cardinals would be? I can't imagine a world where you say that the Bengals would only have been favored by 3 points. So certainly hasn't been the best start for the Bengals so far, but does Joe Burrow get it turned around this week? Your opinion?
I think the Bengals are gonna win it, but I don't think it's gonna be pretty. Uh, um, I just like the Bengals are so much more like on paper talented than the Cardinals, and I think that difference it might not it might not be like there might not be analytics to prove it, but I just think the Bengals are. I have a hard time picking the Cardinals, and I'm loving what Josh Jacobs has been doing this season, but it seems like the Bengals are just like waiting to explode a little bit. Um, I mean, the past 2 years, uh, Joe Burrow's gotten off to a very slow start, and has to be the slowest um of any. But
Yeah, well, I mean, we talk about slow start. We're 4 weeks into the season. At what point does it not become a start and it becomes the trend or a
yeah,
season?
and it seems like I'm like just kind of using I'm trying to like reason myself into picking the Bengals, but I kind of just did it. I think the Bengals are. This is not a confident pick, but this is a trust Joe Burrow pick, and that's I'm gonna go Cincy -3.
I'm going the other way.
Good. Yeah, you should.
Cardinals. um, I don't know. This team every week has been obviously last week they played the 49ers, so it's tough to say like, they kept
Yeah,
it close, but for the most part, they've been a competitive team all season. And I like Michael Wilson, the rookie wide receiver. James Conner has been one of the best running backs in the league this entire season. And Cardinals at home, like their D line has been like feisty. Like I don't know if they've been like good, but they've been feisty. So if they can get to Joe Burrow, because really right now Joe Burrow is a one read quarterback. He doesn't have the mobility to extend plays and find his other options. So when his first read isn't open and the clock is dwindling, he really has to make either a poor throw or throw it away. So it's really, really affected this Bengals offense. Also, T. Higgins, I believe, is out this week. So that certainly doesn't help Joe Burrow's case. So I'm taking the home dog, Arizona Cardinals +3 against Joe Burrow. A sentence I never thought I'd hear myself say. But here we are, week
Josh.
5.
So you're saying Josh Jacobs is a better quarterback than Joe Burrow? That's crazy.
Yeah, precisely.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Sweet. Now we're gonna go into one of my. This is gonna be my game of the week. Eagles 4-point favorites on the road in LA against the Rams. Two teams who I honestly think look like they're gonna be like. I mean, we're talking about it. We did our little segment on Tuesday about contenders or pretenders. These are two teams I both believe to be contenders. I know you're not as high on the Rams as I am, but this is one of my favorite game, or this is my favorite game of the week. What do you think now?
Yeah, I'm probably gonna save that for Cowboys Niners Sunday Night Football, but this is probably up there with one of my favorite games of the week. Cooper Kupp just announced that he will be playing, or the Rams just announced that Cooper Kupp will be playing on Sunday, which is awesome. I'm very excited to see Cooper Kupp back on the field. I'm interested to see how they work. When you're thinking like, okay, I was gonna say something that might be a little bit crazy, but like top receiving groups in the league, like Puka Nacua has been incredible. Like Tutu Atwell's had an amazing start to the season, and adding Cooper Kupp to that, like I don't know, at least how they've been playing so far, assuming Cooper Kupp is healthy, like I think that's at least worth talking about.
Yeah.
So this one's tough. Like the Eagles are 4-0, but doesn't feel like they should be 4-0. The Rams are 2-2, but I think they've exceeded everyone's expectations so far. My biggest thing in this game is thinking about the Eagles D line versus the Rams O line and how that's going to affect Matt Stafford in the passing game. We talked about how much we like the Rams receivers, but if Matt Stafford doesn't have the time to throw the ball, then obviously that affects the efficiency of the receivers. So I made this exact point last week where I was like, I just don't see Joe Burrow against the Titans being able to be effective against that D line. And I'm kind of leaning the same way in this game with Matt Stafford. He's not 100% in this game. I think it was a hamstring or a back.
Yeah.
I can't remember, but he's a little bit banged up coming into this one. And this is not the defensive front you want to see. But then to play devil's advocate, the Eagles secondary has certainly been questionable to start the season. So I think it'll be a good chess match between the coaches and the players. And we'll see, which unit prevails, whether it's the Rams receivers or like the Eagles D line. So I'm excited for that like mini matchup within the game. But I like the Eagles to cover this game.
Yeah, and every week I try to do like a player that's most important to their team's success. I'm gonna go with the guard for the rookie guard for the Rams, Steve Avila. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly, but he's been awesome to start the season. I think he's a big reason why the Rams offensive line has been so much better than it was last year. But he's got a huge task between Jalen Carter, who is looking like a potential defensive rookie of the year, and Jordan Davis, who's having, I mean, I guess you could say a breakout season. He's really solidified himself as that like a guy who can be on the field, not just on the running downs, but like he can be on the field for every down. So he's got a huge task. And I as much as I want to take the Rams in this game because I think they've been super fun to watch. You touched on it. Puka Nacua has been one of the best receivers in all of football, and now they're getting Cooper Kupp back. I'm also going to take the Eagles with you, but yeah, I don't know. I think this Rams team is a lot. I think they're going to be one of those teams that can beat anyone on any given day.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be surprised if it's the Eagles on Sunday.
Yeah, I agree. I think it'll be a close game. One thing I do want to note before we move on to the next game is I think this is the best scheduled week we've had so far. Obviously, there's a couple of teams with buys, but we have the finally they set it up where there's 4 afternoon games. So we just talked about Bengals, Cardinals, Eagles, Rams, and then there's 2 more. So it's 4 instead of 3, which is a much better breakdown. That's just a NFL scheduling thing, but I think it's important to have 4 games in the late slate because last week the late slate was like not a single good game. So
yeah. Well, the Niners look good.
Yeah, but speaking of
great games,
not so great games, we've got the Jets at the Broncos. I guess it's the Nathaniel Hackett revenge game. Is that what we're calling it? Jets are 2.5-point underdogs against the Broncos. It's a 2.5. Oh yeah, sorry, I just said that. 2.5-point underdogs against the Broncos at home. Yeah, I think when I was looking at this game, the biggest thing for me is going to be Russell Wilson against the Jets defense. Despite how the Broncos have looked, I think Russell Wilson is like number 8 in EPA per play among all quarterbacks this season. So he's having an above average season, borderline like good season. But we've touched on it before, but the Broncos defense has stunk a little bit. So for me this week, it's going to be the Jets D line versus Russell Wilson, and that's been the conversation the past year and a half. Is Russell Wilson kind of shifted his gameplay to be more of this pocket quarterback, not really using his legs as much. And I think it hurt him a lot last year. He's done a better job of it this week. But I think for the Broncos to be successful against the Jets, at least on the offensive side of the ball, Russ is going to have a good game, but also have to be mobile and adapt and, maybe get to a second or third read and make plays instead of just the plays that are like on the play sheet. So I guess that's a matchup I'm excited for. Also, like I would love to see Zach Wilson play well again.
Yeah.
You never want to root for, like, I don't know if you saw the Rodney Harrison interview after the game last week. Like, people can have their opinions on things, but I personally think that's like a bad way of going about it. Like, he was trying to bait Chris Jones into saying that Zach Wilson had been quote unquote garbage his entire career. And like, I don't know. He's a young kid and he's been in the spotlight, maybe a bad spotlight his entire career. So he finally plays a good game and it's just people trying to bring him down even further. So I would actually like to see Zach Wilson play another good game. I think it would make the Jets more exciting. I think it would make the rest of the season more exciting. So I'm gonna take the Jets plus 2.5 in this one. Another game where like if you're guessing the lines without looking at them, I would have thought the Jets would have been favored. So
Yeah.
maybe I'm wrong. But that's 3 games this week that I've been a little confused on the line. So
Yeah,
this
no,
one kind of jumped out to me.
no, I agree with you. And this is like from a storyline perspective, it seems like this is the first time where like it feels like people are like want Zach Wilson to like succeed. Seemed like he had the stigma coming out of BYU and then how everything went down last year. It seems like I mean it's really hard when people are coming at your neck and whatnot. But it seems like people are I mean, I'm sure he feels like almost like a weight off his shoulders where it doesn't seem like everyone's like rooting for his downfall. And
100%.
and I think also last week was like I mean, it was good for like Jets fans, but also for his own like self-confidence. It seemed like it was kind of a like just watching him in like press conferences, it seemed like his like he didn't have that self-confidence, but I mean, he put a lot of good stuff on tape last week, and I think he's going to continue to do it this week. I don't think he's going to be
When oh sorry, continue.
I don't
Interrupt
think
you.
he's going to be like lighting up this defense or anything, but I think he can will this team into a win. Another one of those games where I have a hard time seeing it being a high scoring game.
Yeah.
So I like the Jets to upset in this one. I mean, I already took my underdog of the week, but yeah, I like the Jets.
Yeah, it kind of killed me after the Chiefs game last week when he was on the sideline and I forget who had his arms around him, but they had the camera on him and he very clearly said like, "Fuck, man, like I lost this game because he fumbled the snap. Like he played a great game and then fumbled the snap and the Chiefs got the ball and eventually bled the clock out and walked away with a win. But um, yeah, it's and I had a point I was gonna make and it completely just slipped my mind. So excuse me for everyone listening. Damn. It was going to be a good point too. Whatever it was, it was good, but
Oh yeah, that point I remember. Yeah.
but it's completely gone. So there goes that attempt.
Maybe when it comes back to you, when it comes back to you, get it.
We can move on.
But
Oh,
you got
I
the
have it.
Jets.
I have it. I have
Okay.
it. I have it. It's not really a point, but I think it would be really cool. I don't know if you saw it earlier this season, um, but Trey Turner, the baseball player for the Phillies, was
Yeah.
like really, really struggling early on in the season. And at a Phillies home game, they started the game. He gets up to bat. He signed a really long, expensive contract and struggled all season. And then he gets up to bat, and the whole stadium gives him like a standing ovation. And they were like clapping for him. It was a really like heartwarming moment. And ever since that, he like lit it up the rest of the season. And now they're in the playoffs. Like it
Yeah.
almost like changed their season. So I don't know if there's any Jets fans listening out there, but I think it would be really cool if like somehow they gave like Zach Wilson just like a complete shift of like we believe in you kind of thing. Like we know you struggle a little bit, but we believe in you to turn it around. And I think it would help his self confidence go a long way.
Yeah, and sorry that we don't. I can't believe we're spending this long time out of Jets Broncos game. But I was reading. I was reading. I was reading. It takes what it takes by actually Russell Wilson. Funny, like whatever. Russell Wilson's
Circle.
Russell Wilson's mental coach. And it talks about like a lot of it's talking about like self belief and like understanding like this is what I'm here for. Like, and I think just like I mean, it can't be overstated how important it is to be confident in your own abilities and confident in yourself, confident in your decision makings as an NFL player, let alone a starting quarterback. Um, but yeah, I don't know. It feels like the world's starting to root for Zach Wilson, which is cool to see. All right, next game we got Chiefs at Vikings. Chiefs are 3.5 point favorites on the road going to Minnesota. Now, any thoughts on this game?
I think we're going to see a lot of points. The over under is currently at 52.5. If there's any betting people out there, I I already gave my lock of the week out, but my favorite bet of the week for entertainment purposes, but also I think it's going to hit is the over in this game. I would love to see like a shootout. I feel like we haven't really seen like, I
No.
mean, we saw the Dolphins kill them, but I feel like we haven't seen one of those like back and forth, like whoever gets the ball last. Maybe the Dolphins Chargers week one was kind of like that, but
Yeah.
I'd like to see one of those games. I'm a little bit confused. This game opened at Kansas City -5 and is now shifted to 3.5. Do you have any insight or reason why that'd be? I was trying to think of like why the line would have moved to 1.5 towards the Vikings, but I can't really figure it out to be completely honest with you.
Yeah, I'm looking at injuries. Doesn't seem like, I mean, Nick Bolton's questionable, but nothing like prolific. Uh, I don't know. I like the not. I mean, I'm gonna go right for it. I like the Chiefs in this one. It seems like 3.5 is too little of a line. Like, I mean, Patrick Mahomes is still Patrick Mahomes. I know he had the rough Sunday night game. Maybe that's why, just as like as a reaction, overreaction to um, how the game went on Sunday. But it felt like, honestly, like for the first time in maybe his career, it seemed like the reason why the Chiefs were struggling was because of Patrick Mahomes, not like necessarily who was around him. And I don't think that's like a every week type of ordeal. Like I have faith in Mahomes. I think he's gonna get shit together against the defense that's looked not good this year. So
Yeah,
I like the Chiefs, and I agree with you. High scoring game.
yeah, I didn't give away like, but I also like the Chiefs in this one. I'm still a little bit perplexed at why the line's moving towards the Vikings,
Yeah.
but yeah, I don't know. We talked about it last week. Like it's a good win. It's a tough win versus the Jets. It's one of those games that maybe they didn't deserve to win, but they at the end of the day they're an incredible team and they found a way to win. So I think they have a little bit easier of a time this week versus the Vikings. So we're both on the Chiefs. Um, and then that takes us to Sunday Night Football. Probably the game of the year so far.
Not
Maybe
my game of the
Dolphins.
week.
Yeah, not
No,
not not even your
no,
game of the week, but
definitely
um,
skip on that one.
one of my favorite games of the year so far for sure, if
Yeah,
not the favorite. We've
yeah,
got Cowboys at 49ers. 49ers are 3.5 point favorites at home. Um, I'm gonna let you take the mic here, and I want to hear your breakdown before I get my thoughts.
yeah. I mean, obviously, like, I mean, the Cowboys are one of those teams that's a legit. I mean, I mean, according to you, a legit contender. Uh, and during the regular season, I agree. Like, they are one of those teams that can always look like the Super Bowl favorite. And right now, they're going to San Francisco to face the team that is currently the favorite to win the Super Bowl, in the San Francisco 49ers. And like, I like the Niners in this one. I think matchup wise, I'm worried about who's on the other side of Stephon Gilmore. Trayvon Diggs was a huge blow for that defense. And Kyle Shanahan is known for, I mean, this sounds bad, but taking advantage of, I mean, he's known for taking advantage of like weak spots, whether it be injury or just like a player struggling. And I think he's going to find ways to get whoever's on the other side of Stephon Gilmore isolated against guys like Brandon Ayuk, who one of the, in my opinion, emerging into one of the best receivers in all of the NFL, and or make a guy tackle Debo Samuel. Like I think that's what the great coaches do, is like they understand like they understand not only where to attack but how to attack it in different ways. And I think Kyle Shanahan might have a field day. I'll go bold prediction right now. Brock Purdy, uh, 4 touchdowns. I don't know, is that bold enough? But I mean, against the
Yeah, that's bold. That's
Cowboys
definitely
defense,
bold.
I got Brock Purdy, 4 touchdowns Sunday Night Football.
Wow. Um, yeah, I think like just right off the bat, I think it's gonna be a really, really close game. And
Hold on,
Cowboys 3.5.
your audio went
Um,
out. you're good now.
Oh, sorry, you can go ahead.
No, your audio went out. You're good. But Niners. I mean, we
Sorry, my back.
No, you're good. But I think also another storyline is like how efficient Dak Prescott has been so far this year. Like he's not been turning the ball over at all. And it'll be interesting to see how he responds to pressure from the 49ers who just traded for Randy Gregory. Not that I think he'll play this week. But like the Niners are gonna find ways defensively to put Dak in a bind and have to make a play and make the right decision. So that's also another interesting storyline in this game.
Yeah, my apologies. My headphone just died, so I think it cut me out. I was gonna say I think it's gonna be a really close game. I think the 49ers are gonna win by exactly 3. That's my bold prediction of the week, actually.
Wow. I like
So
it.
49ers by exactly 3. I think it's gonna be like 27-24, like a very classic NFL score. But for that reason, I'm gonna take the Cowboys plus 3.5. But nonetheless, I think it's gonna be an awesome game. I'm excited to see how Brock Purdy handles the Cowboys defense. But I think you touched on a point that I was gonna make is that like it's really tough to cover just Debo or just Ayuk or even just Christian McCaffrey, but losing Trevon Diggs and having to cover all 3 of those guys, and then I didn't even mention George Kittle. So yeah, I'm more just gonna be like a flat out like football fan for this game.
Yeah.
So I think the Cowboys cover, but the Niners get the dub by exactly 3.
Yeah. All right, now we're going from 2 teams that are looking to be like legit contenders to 2 teams that need to like right the ship. Packers going to Raiders. Raiders are a 1.5 point favorite. This is a line I'm a little confused by because we know Jimmy G's been like banged up or has had a concussion. Hasn't really been practicing, but he's back.
He
now.
just got cleared to play. Yeah.
Yeah. Packers, even though they looked like awful on Thursday Night Football against the Lions last week, I mean they've had the long rest. I like the Packers to win this game straight up. Yeah, but I'll let you talk about it first.
Yeah, two, like you kind of talked about, like 2 teams that need to right the ship, but also 2 teams that are a little bit confusing to, I guess, grade and comment on. Like the Raiders obviously didn't have their quarterback last week, but still played a competitive game. One they could have won versus the Chargers, and then the Packers were Jordan Love the first 2 games. Like everyone was talking about, like did they do it again? Did they have another franchise quarterback? And then I think you've seen the last 2 games. Maybe it's defense is kind of figuring out what they were trying to do, but he struggled quite a bit in the last 2 games. So I'm excited to see if Jordan Love can get it figured out. I'm with you on this one. I like the Packers plus 1.5. This line has shifted like 3 full points since it opened. The Packers opened at 2.5 point favorites. And I guess the news of Jimmy G is worth about 3 points, which makes sense for a starting quarterback. But I just like, I think in this one, it's important to note that week 1, I thought Aaron Jones looked incredible. Obviously, he gets hurt. They haven't really had Christian Watson yet. Jaden Reed, the rookie out of Michigan State, ended up getting hurt. But I think this week, Aaron Jones is going to be back at somewhat of like quote unquote full strength. As much as I, like talking about AJ Dillon and maybe he can have an impact in fantasy, it doesn't seem like he's really figured it out throughout his NFL career. So I think getting Aaron Jones back and healthy will be super important to this team. And then I'm excited to see Christian Watson. I mean, he had a touchdown last week, but really wasn't a huge part of their game plan. Not sure if it was because he was still hurt or they were, just trying to ease him into the game. But I like the Packers to go into Vegas and get a dub on Monday night.
Yeah. And I'm gonna have you think of. I don't think you said your player of the week this week, but while you think of that, while you think about that, another storyline: Devontae Adams revenge game, and then we also got Devontae Adams versus Jair Alexander, I think that's got to be one of the better matchups, like 1-on-1 this week. And Jair Alexander's not a guy who just sticks to one side. He's gonna follow Devontae anywhere he goes. So that'll be fun to watch. But I'm also gonna ride with the Packers.
Okay, I've got it.
Yes.
Player of the week,
Prophecy.
JC Jackson.
I
2
love it.
interceptions. Mr. INT, he's back.
I love it. Mr. INT.
Your favorite matchup is obviously Cowboys 49ers.
Yeah, I'm
Anything
checking
else you want to
that
touch?
too.
Anything else you want to touch on before we cut it?
No, I feel like I got everything. You?
Yep, sweet. All right, that wraps up the week 5 preview of the Between the Tackles podcast. Have a great weekend of watching football, and I will talk to you next week.
Yeah, see you now.